Welcome to Colorado Soul Stories, showcasing changemakers and creatives, past and present, who have helped to make Colorado not just a pretty place to behold, but a soulful place to be. I'm your host, Mama Jill, longtime Colorado resident, former teacher, and freelance journalist. Let's get started with our next episode.
We were each other's favorites. We would always say, what if all that ever hurt just needed kerosene and everything looks beautiful and nothing's clean.
I have created a best of episode here, and I indeed think of it as a gift. If you have not had a chance to listen to all of the Colorado Soul Stories created since last June, or even if you are that rare person that has, I have compiled what I view as the nuggets of gold from each of them. The more I interviewed these impactful people, the more I noticed a common thread, that being the importance of positive in-person experiences which help us to cultivate community. Enjoy. My first episode that I ever recorded was with the founders of Muddy's Coffee House in North Denver. My interview with Joe and Kat DeRose, to me, was such a fitting way to start a podcast about the soul of Colorado. Here are some precious insights from that conversation that reflect on how the acceptance of a space can cultivate connections between people no matter their beliefs.
We had a beatnik bit, and we had a lost soul bit, and we had a hippie bit. So I'm actually part of all of those generations. And then to really talk about Muddy's was a coffee house that was organic, because from the moment we opened the doors, it was no longer mine. It was everyone's. And still the thing was magic. We didn't own it. We were just privileged to service it. Well, civility was the only rule. And you actually had to be there live to have a point of view. Mm-hmm. And then anything could flow from that. Yeah. But because you were actually there and not anonymous, you could be autonomous but not anonymous. Yeah. And so that sort of thing actually led to the civility, but it also led to great debate because we weren't either liberal or conservative. We were actually a what I would like to call a strong neutral presence. I think humans thrive in a place that has no expectation, but a comfort level of whoever you are, that's fine. You don't have to prove who you are to be accepted here. You don't have to have a philosophy to be accepted here. We tend to reduce everything to a political stance at this point, and life is bigger than that.
Certainty is the enemy of your intellectual growth.
We have a preserved, at least up through our deaths, a history of a way tolerance can be practiced.
Okay.
And those people that went to Muddy's were tolerated, and I think that we all learned tolerance from it. From being tolerant.
Muddy's was based on human contact and human interaction and discussion. And as you say, there's so little of that now. And we have to, maybe the legacy would be, let's try to recreate those kinds of situations, because I think people are hungry for it, even though they may not even know what they're missing.
I interviewed Josie Nixon and Cooper Braun of the Exposed Storytelling Series. Exposed provides an in-person platform for folks to share their most difficult life chapters. I was struck with the unique wisdom these two imparted during the interview regarding how we relate in current times and how our hardships can bring us closer.
I wanted to live my life authentically and didn't want to come out as queer and trans, surrounded by people who would have taken a long time to navigate that journey with me. So I decided 1,800 miles was the appropriate distance. And the week I moved here, I took every step I could to be my full self. I think Denver is where I actually found my people and my home. This place has welcomed me with open arms, and I'm very appreciative for the community I have here. Exposed is a platform for our communities to find a place, sharing their stories authentically, being held by an audience of people that is guided through the narratives of the darkest parts of our lives, done in a way that brings levity, entertainment, and really raw, vulnerable truth to a stage and into the spotlight, when typically it's relegated to places that are dark, closed off, and society shuns.
Do you think that COVID and social media in general, have culminated to a place where some of us really need more face-to-face interaction?
I wouldn't even limit it to that. I think we need a smack in the face.
Okay, thank you.
I think exposed to me is an opportunity to tell people to wake up and get your head out of the sand. We are berated on a daily basis with global-sized atrocities, genocides, famine, warfare, death, murder, capitalism. And I just want you to come and listen to your neighbor tell you a story.
Yeah.
And that is hard for people. And it is a little mind-boggling to me that during COVID, we all accepted that we're all messed up. And we were openly talking about it, and we were sharing it, and we were asking for help. And then we went back out in public, and everyone looked at us in the face, and we're like, no, I'm fine, I'm all right, I'm good. So that didn't actually bother me.
Feel like we gained some things and then immediately lost them.
One step forward, two steps back.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened to me. And whether it's the generation of children that are now inundated with technology earlier than any of us can imagine, or it's the boomers that have been completely transformed by propaganda media, or the millennials who have been told their entire lives that you can achieve this or that, and we're just sitting here like feeling like failures on a constant basis, or whatever generation you're in, you are part of a generation that is not the same as it was pre-COVID.
These are the stories of the people in this room.
Yeah.
They're the stories of the people in this office. They're the stories of the people sitting next to you in the coffee shop. They are the stories of the people sitting next to you on the bus. Everywhere, places where we have our little communities.
Right.
But the thing is, we're all messed up. And that transcends race and gender and sexuality and political. It reminds us that we all have these stories, that we're all in this together.
I had the pleasure of accidentally meeting Cipriano Ortega, a North Denver neighbor, through a music group on Instagram in the early days of COVID. Since then, I have witnessed his growth as an artist, and I love his deep, authentic dedication to his first love, which is making music, and how through that medium he shares his feelings about the world. We discussed the importance of place and how music provides a road to immortality.
Recording music in a very similar way of like, it's a sonic painting, it's a sonic stage, and how you set that up and where you put frequencies. I see them as colors or as vignettes or as cinematic things. Painting and theater have really taught me how to be a musician. It's been great just to see how everything's connected. I mean, everybody says that all the time, but it really is. If you see it and put it together.
You have to pay attention. It's not just one thing.
No, it's many moving parts. And again, I think that's what theater taught me as well too. It's not just the actors, it's the script. It's not just the script, it's the director. It's not just the director, it's the producer. It's not just the producer, it's the theater. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Right.
It's a collaborative effort in that way. And what I always say, it may sound tragic to some or not, but for me is like, if I'm long gone, I want some, person to pick this up on a dusty shelf, the CD itself, and find a vintage CD player and put it on, and then I'm alive again. That's the beauty of recording sound and music, is that you're etching yourself into the physical frame of time.
Yeah.
And your physical representation is still there once you're long gone. I think being creative is an act of revolution and within itself. Just to change, you can change people's perspectives. You can create a music revolution. You can create so much just from making art.
Up next here,
We have Turner Wyatt at the Colorado Poets Laureate Anthology book launch. Turner was the founder and organizer of this project, and I love how he validates and uplifts how lucky we are to have a poet laureate in Colorado.
And so I was thinking about Poets Laureate and learning to say Poets Laureate instead of Poet Laureates, and thinking a lot about this remarkable position, which is really our only official art creative person that the state sponsors this person. And how weird and cool is that we have this official poet in Durango, in Colorado, in the U.S. And I think I was just thinking a lot about the concept of how grateful I felt that there's this kind of advocate out there who is making it true that poetry can continue being one of the most important art forms out there with our social movements that really gives language to whatever is happening in society.
We're going to take a quick pause to hear from one of our local sponsors.
Welcome to Nude Foods Market, where we make plastic-free grocery shopping convenient, easy, joyful, and local. We have everything from produce, snacks, meat, and fresh bread to home care, body care, and ready-made meals. The big difference is that our deeply researched organic and local groceries come pre-packaged in returnable glass jars. You shop just like a regular store. The only difference is that instead of putting all that packaging into landfill when you're done with it, you bring it back to us to be reused hundreds more times. Visit our stores in Denver and Boulder and get $10 off your first shop. Go to nudefoodsmarket.com/COSOL to claim your coupon. We're locally owned, women-owned, and working hard to fix our broken food system, so hope you can pop in and check us out soon.
I was so grateful to be able to sit down with the CEO of Historic Denver, John Deffenbaugh. If you don't know what Historic Denver does, they essentially, in my opinion, save the soul of our city. As we have grown, a lot of our physical history has disappeared. John illuminates that our surroundings affect our mental health and why it's important to have the history included with our development of our cities and how integral our surroundings are to our identity. So I hope you enjoy this excerpt.
Think about where you're most comfortable. Yeah. Usually older buildings or older parts of the city are going to play a big part in that. I love the new. I also love the old. I love the contrast between the old and the new. Yeah. But older buildings provide familiarity. They ground us. They remind us of memories from the past. When I go back to Glasgow, I'm from Scotland. When I go back to Glasgow each year, I will wander around for miles, shed a few tears, remind myself of the experiences on the streets, the bars, the back lanes, remind myself of where I came from. And that just really grounds me, and I find it quite emotional. And so when you're walking through a city, more often than not, I think there's a body of research to back this up, but more often than not, we as human beings are most comfortable in surroundings that we're familiar with. If you look at generally the most successful parts of the most successful cities, they're either the older parts or their new parts designed to look old, which is a whole other conversation.
Right. Yeah.
But older parts of the city and those traditional rules of urban design, perimeter blocks, private space, public space, human scale, materials that instill a sense of the past. Those are generally the parts of the city that we as humans can feel most comfortable in. You look at society's past, and they use the built environment and architecture as a way of celebrating learning and enriching people. Yeah. There was a period in Scottish history called the Great Enlightenment, and there were so many wonderful inventions coming out of Scotland. And that was also at a point when architects were building some of the most fantastic structures and fantastic buildings. So there were societies in the past that did equate quality architecture, wonderful spaces with the benefits of learning and enrichment to us as humans.
Yeah.
And sometimes I worry that we've lost that. And you see these buildings go up which just look like filing cabinets for human beings. And it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the floor to ceiling height, the size of the windows. You look at older buildings, many buildings from the Georgian, Edwardian, Victorian eras, the windows are bigger.
Yeah.
There's more light coming in. The windows are taller. There's higher floor to ceilings.
Right.
Now we just live in these shoeboxes with small poke-through windows, and it's kind of sad.
Well, and that goes back to the mental health piece, how you feel when you're in those places.
Daylight, for example, right? Daylight, something we're not seeing today, but we
Right.
get a lot of here in
We get a
Colorado.
cloudy day today.
Daylight, there's a really established concept that, exposure to daylight is good for our minds, is good for our mental health. That's why windows in those older buildings were much larger, floor to ceilings in those older buildings were much larger. Bring daylight into classrooms, expose kids to more light, and that helps them learn. So there was a whole joined up cycle linking architecture, the built environment, to learning, to mental health, to high quality outcomes, that it feels like we've lost a bit recently.
I met Andy Mast serendipitously while pursuing a story about the first Amish people moving to Colorado in West Cliff. Andy was quietly sketching in a small office on Main Street where I learned of an accident that he experienced on his family farm, causing a traumatic head injury and preventing Andy from being able to do much of anything. In this excerpt, we learn about his journey back to drawing, which taught him the importance of having both the dark and the light in our lives.
I grew up on the farm, and so finding drawing time was a challenge. So I would work during the day on the farm, then I would come in late at night and draw by lantern light or lamp light.
Wow.
Growing up within the community, there was no electricity, no vehicles, no power of any kind. So the lighting,
Right.
was different than most artist studios today.
Right.
So I just did what I loved and just stuck to the drawing board. Drawing is what brought me peace. And so I would draw late into the night. Horses were a huge part of our way of life, horse and buggy, riding. And so it was just a natural fit to start drawing horses.
And you still incorporate the horses out here in Colorado. And there is a very intense kind of a dichotomy of a situation with those horses for you. So if you want to share about that a little bit.
Yeah. I was 17 years old, still working on the home farm. And it was a brutally cold day in January of 2009. So cold that it was difficult to work outside. So my dad had a ton of paperwork to do inside, and he asked me if I would help. But he said, before we get started, please go turn out our 2-year-old to the paddock for exercise. And the last I remember is turning towards the barn to do that errand. And 20 minutes later, my dad found me laying unconscious on the frozen ground with the horse standing right beside me, and he kind of had his head draped over my body as if in remorse. And so he was not a dramatic horse, an evil horse, or anything of the nature. So I know he didn't intend to hurt me. It would be 48 hours later before I woke up in the hospital. I had a severe brain injury, and little did I realize what lay ahead. I would not be able to work for 5 years thereafter. What had came so naturally for me when it came to the art and drawing had seemed to be taken away from me. I essentially, it felt like I became a prisoner in my own body. There was all this pain and darkness, and nobody in the whole wide world seemed to understand, even if they wanted to. And it had seemed that my art career had come to an end.
Yeah.
And that in itself was very devastating. And so now, having gone through that dark time, it really has brought the importance to me of, I want to try to make the world a better place, you know. And it was only until I experienced that darkness that I understood the importance of the light. And so light is very important to me in my work, and also in my art, and metaphorically, even in my life and in the walk. Life is full of light and shadow, you know, and it just hugely influenced my work. And I strive to bring hope and peace to people, like it brought me hope and peace at one point. You know, one night I was tossing and turning in bed, and I was just reflecting upon my life and where I was, what I went through, where I am today. And suddenly some words came to my head. And only until I got out of bed, wrote these words down, could I sleep again.
Yeah.
And those words were, the deeper the shadows and darker the night, the brighter the sunshine and sweeter the light. And so I feel that even the tiniest form of hope is better than none at all.
Chris White is building an earthship in Saguache County. He emphasizes not only the need to find more affordable and sustainable living options, but he integrates the idea of true interconnected communities and the beauty and freedom of simplicity.
There's never been a bigger loneliness epidemic than there is now. And community is the thing that actually sets us free. The ability to come together and support each other and help each other and give each other fair value for our time. If I can build a community that's sustainable and grows its own food and supports itself by example, then people will seek it out. Would you rather be at a party arguing with one person about something and spend an hour trying to convince them that the earth is round or something? Or would you rather be in a round table discussion with 4 people about how to make things better? It's better to spend one's time trying to work towards the benefit of each other. When you start seeing other people living these alternative lives, I think it just makes things a lot simpler. It doesn't have to be this like complicated thing where we sign up for all of the subscriptions and then struggle in the debt to try and pay for it all. I think it's really trying to bring power back to the people in a meaningful way is what we need to be focusing on. If you can build a really affordable home and you're not working on a 30-year mortgage, then that money, you know, after those maybe 7 years or something, that's all coming back to you. And if we drive home the simplicity of life at its core, of what we need versus what we want, we don't need a lot.
Have you ever climbed a 14er? It is not just a hike. It is an endeavor for which you must be prepared for physically and mentally. Jane Parnell was the first woman to summit all of Colorado's highest peaks. She shares the wisdom that the mountains have taught her over the years.
Eventually, it became really, what are the mountains teaching me? What is the wisdom of the mountains? What are they reflecting back to me about my place on Earth, my place in the cosmos? It really enabled me to transcend my own immediate concerns of the day. And it swept me up into this much bigger world, way beyond my own lifetime, anything that I could possibly conceive of with this little human mind of mine. But out of that emerged this sense of responsibility to give back what they had given me. For that, I am tremendously grateful.
You had a journey. You kind of grew up with the mountains.
I grew up with the mountains. I definitely did.
Hey, remember when I interviewed my son, Gray? We spoke on many topics, from choosing your occupation to allowing yourself to tinker and have time to ponder. His interview actually became one of my most popular episodes. Here is a tidbit from Gray about how and when to go to college.
I would say I had a very non-linear path of figuring out what I wanted to do in my life. And I've tried to sort of be a spokesperson of encouraging other people to do that, because I think that the hardest part of figuring out your life is figuring out, you know, what actually makes you happy, the things you want to do that are fulfilling in a low energy manner where the work doesn't necessarily feel like work. Or if it is work, it's work that you're willing to do that isn't, draining you, know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, are stuck in the loop of you just go to college right out of high school. But I think the hard thing about going right into college out of high school is a lot of the real critical thinking skills that you gain as an adult come from just raw life experience. And I don't really think that college gives you those life skills. College does help with critical thinking, absolutely, especially if you pursue a STEM field. But I'm a huge believer in just going out there and seeing the world, and you don't have to travel necessarily, but just understanding people and understanding what the world actually looks like that you're trying to fit yourself into. Because if you just stay in a classroom for 4 years after you graduate high school, you are not really interacting with the world.
Right.
You're just interacting with other academics.
In this excerpt, Yonder Mountain String Band fiddle player Coleman Smith and his wife Robin Vega share how participating in a jam circle is not only an inspirational tool to make you a better musician, but it connects you to a community of support and education for the craft.
Going back to some of your questions, what was it like to grow up with sort of several generations older as mentors? It means it was mindfulness on their part. The ability for somebody that had been at the top of their game to allow a young kid that really didn't know how to play that much. And I remember sitting in a circle of 15 of some of the most amazing musicians, like all of the surviving Texas Playboys and Light Christo Boys and members of Willie Nelson's band and all these legendary musicians. When the circle would get towards me, they'd be like, all right, take a solo. I wouldn't know what I was doing, but that was their way of being mindful and welcoming me into the community. And that's sort of what we want to do here for the future generations is open that perception that it should be a welcoming, wholesome environment.
So were you nervous when you'd play that, or was that just kind of part of what you were doing and it became a norm?
I think early on there may have been some nerves, but I'm telling you, just the shared passion for the arts that this older generation wanted to see passed down, it relinquished any feeling of nerves or intimidation that I may have had and turned it into the thing that I wanted to do most. Nobody had to tell me to practice, but the reason why nobody had to tell me to practice as a child is because I had that community experience at the same time. So the practice allowed me to get back into the jam session. The jam session allowed me to get on stage, and then the notoriety and the
Which
feeling.
you had as a kid.
It's a good muscle to flex. In the jam circles, we do them on Sundays, and we could have a 10-year-old sitting next to a, teen, next to a 70-year-old.
Which I love.
It's great. And the thing we have in common is just playing music. With the projects I'm involved with now, the common denominator is community. It's rooted. These are all projects that are deeply rooted in this community that we love. The intention is community-based, which is really cool, whether it's music or, innovation. It's a labor of love.
Andy Carlson is a North Denver resident and founder of the popular band Highland Electric Co. He speaks to the joys of playing live music and those experiences being a catalyst for community.
I saw this band called the Hackensaw Boys, and they were from West Virginia, I think. They're still around today. They've gone through many mutations, but it was a single microphone and about 7 individuals just standing around this mic with maybe a couple thousand people underneath a tent. I watched this band and I stood there and I go, I want to do that. I want to play and bring people together, right? Community, and feel that, because you can see with a single microphone recording, you can feel the energy between the musicians and their respect for each other when they step up and take a solo and they go back. Yeah. And, regardless of what it is, whether it's bluegrass, jug band, folk music, just singing around a single microphone, it's electric, right? It gives you the chills. I think improvising with a group of musicians is kind of where it's at. It's like it's communicating in real time. It's making something that might not ever happen again. Like, what is this show going to be? What's going to happen here? Well, it's like a Christmas present you're opening.
I was able to sit down with writer Tej Bolin after the launch of his latest book, Escaping Denver. Tej is best known probably for his regular writing in the weekly newspaper Westward. However, he has also won the Colorado Book Award in 2007. Tej is also a well-known writing teacher at the University of Colorado in Denver. In this excerpt, he and I basically talk about gentrification. Tej spent quite a bit of time living in North Denver, which is the neighborhood I have lived in the longest during my adult life. So we discuss the changes and how those changes have affected us, affected the older residents, and just gives a little bit of perspective on how those changes transform. I hope you enjoy it.
My reliance on place in a lot of my previous work, and in some of my ongoing work as well, has really been a response to what I see as people not sort of living in the place that they are as actively as they once did, right? Like there's a lot of studies out right now about how we've lost our third places and, things like that. But I think it goes beyond that. I think it goes to, you're not even living in your first two really anymore. I mean, a lot of people are working from home. And even if you're home, you're not home in the same way that you were, I think, back in the day. And it doesn't foster any kind of connection to the larger places around you. Tennyson Street at that time in 98 was absolutely indistinguishable. You could not recognize anything there that's now there, right? It has changed utterly. Just the feeling of the street has just gone away. There were old diners along, and I would go into this diner, and I would get like a plate of eggs and some hash browns and toast, and it was like $2.
Oh, it was the best.
And it was the best. I mean, they would bring me, the lady who ran it was just this great. I don't remember her name, but she was wonderful, and she knew
Kyle's
me.
Kitchen?
It could have been. She would bring out jelly in like a little dish.
Yes.
And it was just charming. And there were a lot of houses, still residential houses in 98. The Elitch Bowl was still there and was a great bowling alley. A lot of old stores along that stretch. I think it was just like you go into these old places and you can feel the history of it. It's like in the air. You can taste it. There's like a tenor to a place that's had that much. There's just this echo of history. I don't want to over romanticize it, but if people have been in a place like that, like an old school, these old places, but they go there because they have that sort of esoteric sense that there's something going on here. Like you feel it. You can feel it in your bones. And so we would go in there, and I think we were just taken by whatever power that is.
Sarah Anderson of Evergreen, Colorado is one of my favorite musicians. She is the front woman of the band Heavy Diamond Ring. I got to interview her last summer up in Evergreen, and in this excerpt, Sarah and I speak of her journey to Colorado and her life here and how she appreciates being a Coloradoan. Enjoy.
We lived in Ohio. I was in Catholic school. It was like very, very different environment. And my parents just one day decided we're done. We're going to pack our bags and move to Colorado with no plan.
So that was just like not because of a job or anything. They wanted to be somewhere else.
Yeah, my dad wanted to cut himself out of the family business and just really follow his heart. And so it was pretty amazing because when we moved here, we completely started over, just mindset-wise. Like, okay, we're no longer going to be going to Catholic school. We're no longer going to be going to church. And we always joke, we kind of feel like we were a spiritual experiment. You know, like my parents were trying out so many different things. Yeah, I mean, it was all amazing. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, so they really just wanted us to pursue our dreams. Like that was their biggest goal, raising 5 kids. Like, who are you?
Wow.
There was a lot of curiosity in our household.
You said, I think, well, do you mean old Denver or new Denver?
Yeah.
I heard that strongly because there is very much, if you've lived here for a long time, a new Denver.
I'm still getting to know it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The new Denver?
blows my mind. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel so far away from it, which is fine. It's totally fine.
Kind of good to be far away from it.
Yeah. I just don't. And I was so deeply entrenched in old Denver. So it's very interesting to be down there and kind of like, okay, what?
You have to re-navigate.
Yes.
And
I don't recognize
calibrate and use a compass or something because it also changes
so fast.
Is there things that you miss from the old Denver or
yes.
places?
Yeah.
Please
Yeah,
elaborate.
they were just the golden days.
Mm.
You know, it was before it was super busy. I rode my bike everywhere and felt safe.
Me
You know,
too.
the amount of friends I have who've been hit by cars.
Recent, like
oh yeah,
in
it's
the new
just
Denver?
so scary. Yeah. So yeah, we were all over the place.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Crema? It's the coffee shop on Larimer. It's my
Yes.
favorite coffee shop.
Yeah.
But I lived in that neighborhood. And I remember when Crema opened up, I was like, ooh, I wish that we could just push pause. Denver is perfect right now.
yeah.
And I could just feel what was about to happen. We all could. Like, oh, this is the beginning of something. It was just such a different place. And all the spots that we go to, like Paris on the Platte, Gypsy Cafe, like all of these places are shutting down.
Yep.
I think the only old Denver place that's still open is Bardo, the coffee shop on South Broadway. I think that's the last one standing. You have to accept change. That's just a part of it. But when I think about it, I get not sad, but just, man, what a sweet time. Be a musician in Denver. I mean, the
I've heard
music
others say that
scene-
too.
the music scene was so perfect.
Next up, Anna Maria, my friend, the animal and nature intuitive, shares how to deal with the negative provocations in our daily life and transform them into positive energy.
We need to retrain our brains. It's not an eye for an eye. That doesn't work. We know that leaves everybody blind. We have to retrain to send love to the situation. It's a different kind of muscle that we're building in learning how to respond with energetic responsibility for things. And that's everything that's going on in the world. It's really easy to say that side is full of it and I want bad things to happen to them because then they'll go away. No, that's not how it works. And it's because, we're learning how to navigate these waves. So we need to learn how to really move from the lip service of love and kindness to what really would be a loving response here for myself, for the situation. Right? Sometimes you can't do anything to that situation to affect it. What am I going to do to affect my mindset after being exposed to that? Right? Or now I know there's a situation, and how can I be in divine inspiration in my response instead of just emotionally charged and coming at it, right? It's a more responsible way to be with your energy.
I'm going to conclude this collection of excerpts with a special treat. I interviewed the North Denver band The Reels at the Sunnyside Music Festival last summer, and here's a full song that they played for us, a Colorado original.
This one's a Colorado song for the Colorado Soul podcast. My grandpa used to take us out on his pickup truck to the check on the cows, and then we'd every springtime you do the work the cows, branding and all that, and this song's a little bit about what these old timers would say is if you slammed your finger in the car door or something got hurt, to soak it in kerosene or it got burned, and sure enough it kind of works. I don't know if it causes other problems in your system to soak your hand in kerosene, but it makes it stop hurting. So this song's about kerosene and those moments in the as a kid when you're watching grown-ups do stuff. Is that right, Steve? It's not a waltz, right? 4/4? Yeah, that sounds right.
Rented ground south of town from the county school. There was hardly any water, probably looked like Fool's Great Aunt Barbara brought sandwiches on Brandon Day. We were each other's favorites, we would always say, what if all that ever hurt just needed kerosene, and everything looks beautiful and nothing's clean. Smoky pinion fire burns your eyes. There's a heat of the irons and philosophers. They took a long belt of black velvet behind the chute. All of the dusty brothers and the old man Luke. And if all that ever hurt just needed kerosene, and everything looks beautiful and nothing's clean. What if all that ever hurt just needed kerosene, and everything looks beautiful, nothing's clean? You know cowboys ain't like hippies, ain't like normal folk. They don't mind bloody hands when they roll their smokes. In the land of rattlesnakes and the Ludlow mine, there's no such thing as innocent come Easter time.